Hi folks, Gamerbug here again, and today I will be covering the most recent update to the Black Death. So my last video covered the 0.35 update, which was titled Expedition. Well, as promised, here is my take on 0.36, which is titled, wait for it, Expedition Part 2. Now, if that doesn't fill you with optimism, hold on to your perceptions as I go through what is new, what has changed, and as always, what is wrong with the Black Death as it stands today. As before, I'll cover each of the points they've highlighted in the update and patch notes. We're on hotfix 2 for this update, but I won't read them out specifically as I did in my last video. So let's get on with feature number 1. Attack on the North Siege Experience. The idea here is it's an instance raid on an area that you have to fight your way through what I believe are respawning hordes to get to the end and the loot. The instance starts, you basically get a ferry here, you actually have to pay money as well, I think it's 1,500 gold. Once you've paid that, you start the instance, and it starts with you at a beach landing, and you make your way in from there. I have to say, it looks pretty nice, and for once, bright. So yeah, no, it looks good. I like it. What happens? It doesn't take long. Once you get near the first gate, then you're under attack, and it remains fairly constant from that point. You have to smash 2 gates in to progress further, one at the beginning, one halfway through, so you need to ensure that you do have a few weapons with you to get to the end due to weapon degradation. Along the way, you can find stashes of supplies in chests or on bodies, but they're limited. It's also worth noting that none of the enemies that you kill actually drop any stuff that you can take advantage of, unlike on the main servers. There are also some couriers carrying around chests that can be killed, and you can loot the stuff in those. But be careful at the moment anyway. If you hit one of them, the weird ragdoll physics that happen, you can basically be thrown into the sky. It doesn't damage you or anything like that, but you can end up in a really weird place. Or you'll just see them ragdolling around like weird and wiggling all over the place. So they're a bit odd if you decide to go after them, but they are a source potential of weapons and stuff. Enemies in this instance, there are, I think, the Templars wielding just varying hand weapons like maces and axes and stuff. Archers, shield variants of these Templars, which are actually quite tough because you don't seem to be able to just smash through the shields, like you have to get around the back of them almost. At least it seems that way. And then there are bomb throwers. At the end as well, there is a big Templar in some sort of fancy armour. You can't miss him. The standard enemies pretty much go down in 1 to 2 hits from, say, a Claymore or a German Warhammer, making them simple cannon fodder, really. The archers, as always, are a bit more of a pain until you get in close. So basically block your way to success as they fire, make sure you block. Also remember, though, the game will often let archers shoot through solid obstacles, so don't consider that you're in cover actually to be any kind of safety. Block is your best thing here. The biggest pain out of all of the new enemies are these bomb throwers, which can hurl sort of missiles, these little bombs that they throw at you. They usually do it from fairly close range and are fairly accurate, so they don't miss too much, and you actually catch on fire and burn for a little bit. They also seem to avoid blows quite well, mainly because they don't just stand there, whereas others do just stand there and whack away at you, or archers do the same. These guys back away, they move to the side and stuff, and then will just randomly throw these things at you. So they're actually a bit trickier. I mean, they still go down in a few hits, but interesting. I do also like this new enemy type, and it sort of goes back to a class skill I mentioned back in one of my old videos from a few years ago, and that was the ability, or giving the monks the ability to use incendiary weapons. Shame it's not a skill for the player, but it is something new at least. My first attempt at this scenario led me to sort of breezing my way through it until I died from catching on fire. Not from the aforementioned bomb throwers, but from a corpse on a burning stake that I stood too close to. I didn't even realise the game had fire damage like that, and I certainly wasn't realising I was taking damage like that. But it seems it does. Go figure. Second attempt, and I hit a fatal error as I was just about to engage that aforementioned fancy Templar. The third try, same fatal error, just after I got inside the main gate. And fourth time, it seems, was the charm, as I made my way through to the end, killed the main guy, got myself a silly looking helmet, and then had to run for quite a while, actually, through some scenery with no enemies or anything coming at you, to an awaiting dock, which is at the end of the scenario. So you don't have to go back to the beginning to go to the dock. There's one actually at the end. You can just follow the path. Dying in the instance means losing everything except any skills and attributes you've earned, so that sucks. Because you can't just go back and get your stuff like you might at least be able to in a normal server. So do consider carefully if you want to journey there. That said, if you take yourself some inexpensive or easily replaceable gear, it's actually a good place to build up experience points. And you can also leave at any time, just go back to the ferryman at the start if things do go too bad. Now, however, these respawning enemies, they do seem to respawn, although there was a point where they actually stopped. If this were to continue, which I think it does, going back to the dock could be as dangerous as just carrying on, depending. Because if you're low on heals, you're low on health, you might actually end up just getting wiped out on the way back. So bring lots of healing items. You can pick healing items up, like I say, off bodies and stuff and that, but don't expect them to be there. All in all, it's not a bad mode, and it adds something else to do to the game, which is good. The biggest downside I can say about it, to be honest with you, is it's just another reason to ignore the main servers, though, as you can go here and level up nicely if you have a stash of longswords and stuff like that you don't mind losing, or just fight some people and just head back to the beginning. So, it's just another reason not to do the game itself and just do the side stuff. Next up, Rideable horses. Now these were meant to be added in 0.35, but it never happened. So here they are at last, after lots of searching for days so I could actually see what one's all about. I actually found one the other day by sheer dumb luck, and it was one of the most underwhelming experiences I think I've had with the Black Death to date. You mount them by pressing E, and they control fairly poorly. They have sort of a use your mouse to move or change your direction that you're pointing in, and you just push forward. So kind of tank controls, so to speak. I guess you can't sidestep on a horse. Makes sense. Yeah, kinda. I mean, you sort of can, but in real life. But anyway, forget that. So yeah, they are faster than walking, but you can't fight from horseback, so you have to dismount for any kind of combat, which is annoying. But more importantly, you can't kind of keep hold of them. You can't keep them anywhere, because I believe after a server reset, they disappear. And you can't take them to another server or your homestead. So you're basically bound to the server where you found them. So yeah, that's it. I know that I had one and I kind of stashed it somewhere, and when I logged in a couple of times later it was still in that place, which weirdly enough I didn't bother then using the horse for anything. But then it was gone a day or so later, so I get the feeling that the server restart is what moves the horse around. One other thing as well, if you are on a horse and you talk to a ferryman, it doesn't just not let you, it lets you. The horse weirdly for some reason went halfway into the ground. I dismounted, not knowing why I dismounted. I was just suddenly stood on the ground, and the ferryman suddenly became a shop. Which I'm assuming is a bug, because I've done it a couple of times where I've managed to turn the ferryman into a shop, usually by doing something I shouldn't be doing, and they had all the inventory of a clothing NPC. So yeah, very weird bug that comes with it. Are the horses worth finding? At the minute, not at all. Not even remotely. The game's not actually that big, so running around isn't that bad. It's nice that they're in there, but yeah, they're nothing to write home about at all. best place to find them that I have heard, and to be fair, it's exactly where I found mine, but like I say, it was accidentally. I wasn't actually planning to look for one at that time, is if you look at the map, there's a river that runs down the centre. Mine was found on the west side of that river, just up from... there's a town on there. I can't remember what the town's called, to be fair. It's crap and no one ever goes there, that's why. But yeah, it was there. Some other people have said that they found it along the edges of the river, sort of down that area as well. So that's where I found mine. Next, guild guard commands. So you can now issue commands to guards that you own. The actual blurb says light guards, so that might be a specific thing. Don't know. So this includes inside and outside of any sort of housing or base you can own. So what that means is you can order them supposedly to attack, patrol, follow you, and so on. It's about time this was included, but all the guards in the game are pretty much trash to an experienced player with a half decent weapon. So best you can hope for is them to kill off some bandits for you. Of the guards I've tried out personally, I've only actually stuck any archers into my base on towers, and I can't get them to follow me at all. Weirdly enough, I can't also dismiss them, which that's actually true of some NPC vendors currently, such as the tavern keeper. You can't dismiss him either, meaning to remove them, you actually have to kill them. So it might just be that archers can't follow you around, or it could just be that, like the blurb says, light guards. Don't know. Be interesting to see. Kind of cool, I guess, to have some, guards following you around, but yeah, I get they're probably more hassle than they're worth. On the subject of placeable vendors, just going back to having to kill the one that I was talking about, there's several issues I have with them as they currently are. First, when you remove them, most of them's crafting station stays behind, or something along those lines, until you leave your server or you relog the game. Some even continue to spawn items, such as the hunter's meat just keeps popping back up on the skewer. Baker's bread just appears. I'm going to go into that in a minute. And the wheat farmer's bag of wheat and seeds, all of that sort of stuff just keeps repopulating. So there's no farmer there or whatever, but the stuff just keeps respawning into their bags and that. Once you leave the server or relog, it's gone. But it's annoying if you want to, you're destroying them normally because you want to put something there. So you have to then log out the game or go to another server to do that. Now in your homestead, that's not such a big deal because there's a ferry quite close. But depending where your base is, you're probably going to have to relog. Annoying. Secondly, trying to place NPC vendors, oh my god, it is one of the most rage-inducing experiences I have ever had in this game. To start with, the wireframe outline, sort of like a silhouette or whatever you want to call it, that appears, ghost image might be a good way of putting it, it has absolutely pretty much zero correlation to what you end up with. And I've no idea why it was changed, and it's massively for the worse. So, for example, the tavern keeper used to have these two barrels behind him, and he had a little counter in front of him. And when you go to place a tavern merchant, or tavern keeper, whatever they're called, that frame, that ghost image, is shown. So you line it up and you place him where you want him. But when you actually place him, what you actually get now is a guy just standing there. None of the barrels aren't there, the bar isn't there, and the guy has about 2 foot behind him just a beer on the floor. That's it. Now you can take the beer just like you would take hunter's meats and things like that, but why did they get rid of the barrels? Why did they get rid of the counter? It looked really good when you were placing and making your little towns and stuff. Ugh, it looks crap now. Ugh. It also makes it really hard to place them because the placement has got no correlation to the wireframe. Next, there's the baker. This guy has an outline of an oven and some workbenches and a stool. And you think, okay, so you go, I'm going to place it like this. And what actually happens is where the oven is, it literally mirrors across a foot sort of angle. So instead of being at the back right, it's at the front left, the other way round. All the benches are gone. And the guy's just sat floating on a stool in the air, which happens a lot of crafting stations, like float for some reason. I don't know why, because they've made every placeable area for these flat. You cannot place on any ground that isn't flat, so why do they float? No idea. And he's got a small bread roll floating in the air in front of him, between him and the oven. And he's sat at a weird angle from the oven, and oh my god, I think I tried to place this guy about 5 times. That's annoying because you have to keep getting the materials to make one. It is so stupid. I don't know why they have done this. It looks garbage once again. Then there's the hunter, who basically shows when you go to place him, all you can see is a campfire. That's it. You have no idea which way that campfire is facing, because it's square, so you don't know what's the front, what's the back, what's the sides. Forget the arrow that's floating in the air, that's absolutely irrelevant generally speaking. And then when you actually place him, he will have a skewer just set to one side of him and a campfire behind him, and then he's in the middle. But where you're putting the campfire, about a few pixels back from that's actually where he sits. The campfire ends up a good, I don't know, in game terms, I guess, sort of 4 feet behind him. It's got no correlation to what you're placing at all. It is so stupid. And this is true of vendors. The chicken farmer, you have an outline of a little chicken coop thing. Instead of it being where it is literally the opposite side of that and a bit to one side. It's just annoying. I'd say it's only true of vendors, even the merchants and the the sort of basic merchants, the basic crafters and things like that you can put down. They're like little shops. They don't appear in exactly the spot you're putting them down. Even the merchant shop that you can craft, which you can't put any stuff on or anything, and that basically is wrong. So all the NPC vendors are wrong. No other way of putting it, to be honest with you. Please, devs, roll this back. Make these vendors look cool and easy to place again. Please. Right. That's out of the way for that. It's time for a quick gripe about homesteads. So, a few of the issues right now as of 0.36. First of all, anvils placed here currently can't be used to craft items, though they do actually allow you to repair items. Basically, you try to use them, it will highlight the first recipe, and your cursor just disappears. So you can't select any recipes whatsoever. If you try to move the cursor, you just move your guy in the background. I've heard that this is patched in the experimental branch, so hopefully that will be addressed soon, but I have no idea when the next hotfix is coming out. So that's annoying. Basically meaning if you want to actually craft armor or weapons and you have a homestead, you're going to have to go onto a main server. But obviously most of the stuff you're going to need to craft armor and weapons is fairly heavy. You get the point. Another issue is sometimes when you're on your homestead, you'll find the plague appears in the area. However, I found that the plague carts are about 90% of the time flying in the air, so you can't actually destroy them. Now I used a bit of initiative and I thought, bow, arrow, have those, maybe you can destroy them with a bow and arrow. As soon as you shoot an arrow at them, they actually disappear. So, I mean, I don't mean they're destroyed, I mean they're there but they're not there. There's like the little plague symbol above them, but that's it, you can't do anything with them. But just in case you think it's only the one floating in the air, I've actually had some that I could reach with a weapon and ditto, same thing happened, they just disappeared. What I have found, at least, is that if you just quickly go back to any old server and then come straight back to your homestead, the plague's gone. So I'm going to assume that the plague being at your homestead is actually a bug and they shouldn't appear. So there is a quick fix, but it's annoying to have to do it. On the subject of switching servers, another issue I have is if you place a bed and set it as a respawn point, then again, this isn't always, I think it's meant to be always, but I found that there are a couple of occasions where it doesn't happen, but 90% of the time, again, it does. And I think this is meant to be the case, that when you enter the server, you don't stay in the docks, you are automatically transported to the bed. So for example, if your bed is in your homestead, you load in the homestead, instead of being stood at the docks, you're automatically inside wherever you put the bed in your homestead. Now in the homestead, that's not the end of the world. Although I found that to try to get to a dock you want to be on, because there's 6 docks in the main server and you often want to say be in Freeman's Port, and it will keep loading you in I don't know, Market Wharf or something like that. The only way to change the dock that you can load in at is to go back to the homestead and back to the server, back to the homestead, back to the server. If you swap between servers, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, you'll be at the same dock on the server. So if I was on London 1, swap to London 2, and I was in Freeman's Port, I'll be in Freeman's Port. Swap to Stockholm 2, I'm on Freeman's Port. So it's only the homestead that can change the port that you're loading at. So back to the bed issue. If you have a base and you wanted to go to, say, Freeman's Port, but your base is, say, I don't know, over near the Snowy Mountain area, can't remember the name of it now, you're going to load in there as soon as you go into the server. So if you didn't want to be at that place, at your base, tough. You know, if for example, a good way of putting this might be you load into a server and you know that there is a small quest thing going on that you can go and kill some guys and get some loot from. Now, if you can get yourself close to that, fantastic. And you can do that, close-ish at least, by, like I say, do the homestead and load the server back in until you get to the closest dock. But if your base is nowhere near it, tough. You're going to keep loading in to your bed every single time. So depending where your base is, that could be exceptionally annoying. I guess a prime example of that would be if you have a base on a server that is in the far south, in the smack in the middle, and there is a plot there, every time you go to that server, you're going to end in the far south in the middle. Which means if you want to server hop, and they've put server hopping in for whatever reason, you can't. You want to go back to your homestead, you're going to have to go all the way to the north of the map. So basically, you're going to want to get a base that's somewhere in the north. It's just an annoying, silly point. Now, they could sort this out a bit if they added a sort of select spawn location as you load into a server, or before you load into a server, I guess, if you really want. And then basically go, where would you like to spawn? Bed, or, and I think they definitely still need to do this, Freeman's Port, Ravens Reach Port, Market Wharf Port, Turnship Wharf, that kind of thing. Just pick the goddamn place that you want to actually spawn in, rather than just somewhere random. Even if they made you pay 10 gold, or I don't know, whatever, just to spawn at that port. Hope that they sort this out. But the minute, it almost makes having a bed pointless. Because you're only going to spawn near the port anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I don't think beds are that particularly helpful. Final rant for now. Siege weapons, which obviously are designed so that you can break doors and castles and stuff like that down easier, rather than having to use however many mauls to smash the door down. Yeah, they can actually only be placed on your own land. That makes them 100% useless and pointless, because you're never going to need one on your own land. As a matter of fact, the only thing that could be used for is if you stuck one axe on your own land, someone might be able to use it to break down your doors. Also, once you placed one, I don't believe you can actually change the direction it fires. No, you can change the direction it fires in, I believe. So that would, yeah, be really stupid. So yeah, absolute waste of time. Don't bother with siege weapons, at least until they fix that you should be able to place them outside a bloody enemy's castle. Right, with those rants over, let's look at what else the updates or patches have added. Supposedly, headshots now multiply damage by 2.5 times. I don't know, I can't say I've really noticed this, but I always aim for the head anyway, so maybe that's true. Guess it probably is. I have seen that it says, and I've seen that you can knock helmets off enemies occasionally as well, which is a nice little touch. And I guess you do more damage when their helmet's not on. That said, I usually kill them before their helmet comes off anyway. What else? The types of resources you would expect to spawn in mines or caves or rocky areas, well, they now do so. So, for example, stone and gold and silver and iron ore, these are all found in caves and mines and rocky areas. Brilliant. People have been asking for this forever because it used to be the case. That was where you found them overriding. There's a few other examples, but most of the time, that is where you would find them. It made these areas also a little bit of a hotspot because I was always nervous when I was mining in the mines going, is someone going to run up behind me and just kill me? I'm always looking over my shoulder. That has been missing for a very long time. So I'm glad that they've added that back in. I must admit, it still doesn't feel the same as it used to. It doesn't have that, hasn't captured that feeling, but it is good that they've done it. So, step back, oddly, in the right direction. They've increased the respawn spawn rate, so that's another good thing. You know, people were saying, "Oh, I can't find anything now." Well, to be honest, there is resources everywhere again, so that's good. And a final nice touch is they've increased the base carry weight by 5 when you start. So yeah, I mean that's always a plus because you know carrying stuff in this game can be an absolute pain in the backside. So that is a rare 3 plus points in a row. Well done, developers. Other good points are you can actually get hold of a better bag a bit earlier on, supposedly via the artisan and peasant professions. I haven't been the artisan profession, but the medium bag did seem to open up a bit earlier for me, so I don't know whether that's just a thing. The peasant profession has this like wicker bag thing now, or basket, so that's good. I believe it's just a rejig of the old. It used to be on the peasant. They used to have that on their back anyway. But yeah, it's good. I don't know how much what it can carry or anything. I'll probably give it a try out, see how it is. But the minute I've got the largest backpack, so I generally don't care. They've supposedly reduced the coal requirement for all recipes. Still seems ridiculous to me. It takes 6 gold for 1 gold ingot, so it's like I think it's 2 gold and 6 coal. It's like, to be fair, I've always hated this addition of coal. It's hard enough to make ingots. Because you've got to go and collect the ingots, and then the ingots weigh a fair... the ore, my bad. And the ore weighs a fair bit, and you need X amount of them anyway. So there's only so many you're going to be able to carry. And you've got to find it, and then you have to take it back, and then you've got to find coal. It just feels like busy work for the sake of it. Don't say it's realism, because this game has 0 realism in it at all. So let's just take that off the table right now. So it's busy work. And to be fair, I feel exactly the same about kindling and cooking. Kindling should just be used for making campfires. Oh, speaking of which, large campfires. If anyone can tell me the point to them, I would love to know. Because I thought that these would be permanent fixtures as opposed to small campfires. So I built a bunch of them and stuck them in my houses, because this is what used to be in houses from 0.11, 12, can't remember. There was the opportunity to put a campfire in your house. It looked really cool. 0.19 when things changed again, ditto, you could have a campfire. suddenly campfires disappear all the time. These cooking fires, I suppose, is a better way of putting the pot over them. But these not only give lovely lighting to your houses, but they just add and make the place feel a bit more lived in, to this like village you might create on your homestead or something. And they all disappeared, every single one of them. So I don't know if they're meant to disappear, but they did. And now I just think, what's the point in making any more of them? Bit of a shame. Hopefully that's something they'll either fix or come up with a better internal fire solution. Not much else has been added that's exciting, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Let's see, patch notes mentioned something about the game is the visuals have supposedly have more contrast at night, but I've never actually had any problems seeing at night. I would say since 0.19. There was a point where the nights were very dark, but that was between 0.12, I think, and 0.19. And to be fair, it was dark and it was scary, so it didn't bother me at all. Now I can see absolutely fine. It's almost like just slightly duller daytime. But it's been like that before this was added in, so I've not noticed it. Oh, and supposedly the moon's 35% smaller. Woohoo! I don't know, whatever. Yeah, great. And supposedly they added the correct version number on the display, as I think it was saying 0.29. I think even one of my videos where I've got footage for 0.35 and I'm paying 0.35, probably 0.36 actually, but anyway. And in the corner it says 0.29. So yay, well done. Whatever, who cares? So that's about it. So not much was really added in the long run. The new instance, yeah, it's fine. Looks nice. It wouldn't have mattered if it didn't exist. Horses, meh, people have talked about them for ages, and as you might expect, they've been implemented and they are good, because that's one of the things that tends to happen quite quickly on this game. And guards you can order about. Well, great, whatever. And then they've added all these changes to vendors that make them look really crap and hard to place. Anything else of note? I'm trying to think. There was a scheduled server wipe. They told us they were going to wipe the server, and they gave us a good warning about this and when it was going to happen, so that's good. And then it actually came about a week or so after it was scheduled to happen, and everyone assumed it had happened, and they carried on. Now don't get me wrong, there were buildings and stuff still around, but some had disappeared, and so maybe it was like, has this happened? Has this not happened? So people obviously would carry on playing a bit, and then the server wipe actually came and wiped everything out, which was very annoying, because people who'd been playing for that week, to be fair, they probably would have just stopped until they knew for a fact the server wipe had happened, but there was no more communication about it. There was none, the wipe has happened. That didn't happen. I've used the word happen too many times there. They said it was going to happen, and then there's been no communication whatsoever since. So we're just assuming it did, because people's stuff disappeared. On the plus side, it was a server wipe and not a character wipe, so which are much more annoying in my personal opinion, because building characters up is boring. And that's it. And based on what little it brought to the game, it's for the best. It was considered part 2 to 0.35 rather than a full update, even though it was called a full update, 0.36. Considering where we are now and how dead the game feels, I still don't know what the longevity is for the Black Death. At the moment, it doesn't seem to be managing to even draw in the post-update numbers of the past. Normally you'd have an update, quite a few people would be like, ooh, update, jump in. It happens, it's nowhere near as many people as it used to be. And that's not good. It doesn't help that bugs are bringing this sort of thing. You know, they put an update out and the bugs are crippling sometimes, that people just get fed up. the considerable amount of these, the constant fatal errors that keep popping up, they aren't helping. The bizarre choices to some of the systems are going down quite poorly. And even, like I say, the minor things, I say minor, but I find them major, such as changing how these vendors look or how they are placed. It's just frustrating. It's just adding to this despondency people are having with the game. Now, the game still has potential, but it is actually starting to feel like the devs are giving up a bit. And this is the first time I've really felt that way about the game. I felt that they really were behind this, but it's gone radio silence. Really has. And right now, even hot fixes are few and far between. It's been a long time since we've had one, and there are a lot of errors and issues in the game still. And there's been no communication about the next update or the next hotfix or anything. There are plans, they have a roadmap, there are some interesting stuff that I saw in the pipeline. But the thing I keep hearing again and again from the community is fix what's there before you add more. They could go back to how this game sat at 0.19 and fix what's there, and I think people would be playing it. They could probably go back to the sort of 0.12 to 0.19 era, and they could have fixed what was there, and people would probably still be playing it. And then the changes from 0.3, I can't remember what it was, where we went away from this 0.1 model and we had the specific base building and all this kind of stuff built in. And fix what's there. But no. Guys, fix the problems, then move into the next level of stuff. Because not fixing the problems is stopping people playing. And yes, it's early access, but you need the players for testing purposes and for popularity and to get other players in so that more people buy the game, so that you get more money, so that you can develop it more. Seems to make sense to me. Anyway, with all that said, I'm not sure what my next outing on this is going to be. I might do a new sort of reflection on the state of the game type of video. Depends on my mood. Until then, as always, thank you for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. We are now up to date on the Black Death. And until next time, Gamerbug out.